Okay, recruitment is now obviously done mostly, in some cases completely online. Is there anything teachers need to be aware of in that respect?
Well, for one, I think we're all understanding how to use Zoom a lot more effectively than we have in the past.
I'm still learning.
I think we discussed earlier about having your mute button is on as a title of a new book for people. The technology aspect for most teachers these days has now become such a big part of their teaching lives that you really need to understand that recruitment is done almost entirely online these days as well. The job fairs, which were kind of like speed dating, and you would get to meet people and they'd look you in the eye, and you'd meet them in the elevator and you'd get a job between the 4th and the 10th floor, and all those wonderful stories. They just simply don't, they're not going to happen. And I think as the cost of them is realised, that most people will understand that the recruiting process is going to be done through a combination of social networks like LinkedIn in particular, and then getting to and then doing your research through the internet. I mean, schools are pretty good at telling you what they're looking for on their websites. Every international school has one, and you can get a real good feel. I know because I look at thousands of them. You can get a really good feel for a school, what they're looking for, and whether or not they'd be a match for you based on just simply how their website is laid out and what they're telling you. And I think, as I think I'll probably talk a lot about, it's your opportunity to talk to maybe not the key decision makers, but definitely gatekeepers in international schools is easier now than ever, because teachers tell you their name and the school they work at on LinkedIn, and it's not hard to search there. And most teachers, because I know we all know them, are actually really nice and are happy to talk about their job. It's not a secret. And so if you respectful and timely way ask them, can I ask you a couple of questions about the school that you work at? I think 90% of the time you get an answer from a teacher, from a deputy principal, someone else who's been there for a couple of years, so you can really get a good feel for whether this school is for you. So you can really, I hope, weed out the schools that you're talking to, because you get a sense of what it is that they're looking for and what it is, and you match it to your goals. So I think the most obvious thing is to do your homework. And teachers, we do that.
And I'd just also like to add here too is that LinkedIn has been an incredible opportunity for teachers who are active on it. And for myself, I've been, clearly having been in recruitment previously, I've been familiar with it for a very long time, and I've been building my network specifically in that area, almost at 26,000 connections now. And that's something that we really leverage for our one-to-one clients in approaching schools and networking on their behalf. I think that the key thing that teachers, though, need to remember, and what we teach them, though, is when you're networking on LinkedIn, do not ask for a job. You're there to build a relationship and to find out information. Because if you think about it in that way, what can you learn about that school? People, to other teachers, leadership will be open to you. They do not want to be asked for a job. So that's something key that teachers need to be aware of. It's more about building relationships.
Yes, don't ask for a job, because refusal may offend. So.
Can I just go back to the website? Can you give us briefly a couple of indicators of what people should look for when they look at a website, positive and negative?
Absolutely. If a really clear one is if a school has employment or career opportunity or join us clearly on their front page, then they are actively using the website as a recruitment strategy. So that is a really good indicator, just a really simple one. But if a school doesn't have that in their opening page, then they're probably using a agency or something along those lines. But definitely they'd be more open towards me using a website. If they've got a video, which I would say is pretty much a mandatory. Unfortunately, most schools do them exactly the same, but at least a video gives you an idea of a video by teachers about what it's like to work there. So they'll put 4 or 5 unfortunate teachers under a camera and say to them, tell us everything honestly about this school. Don't worry, the principal's watching it as well. So, but you will hear the good things about it, and it's as much as what people say as what they don't say. And then I think also the website tells you the curriculum, which is important. So it'll tell you that, and a lot of schools are now also being pretty explicit about what their expat package is. Like they won't talk turkey in terms of numbers, but they'll tell you about things like, yes, we will provide health insurance, which is a big thing. Yes, we will provide flights to and from. We will provide free accommodation. So you can get a really good sense of if they're telling the community that, then you can know that's what's going to turn up in your contract, and you won't get a surprise when you go through all the interview process and then you realise your net package is actually not as strong as you'd hoped it would be.
Here's another question coming from this. I hope we're not going to go on too long with this, Finley. I know you're doing the checking at the back, but this question just bursts out for me. If I'm a teacher and I've been working in the state system somewhere, and I go and find a job in another part of the world for the first time, an international school, and I've not gone through an agency, I've gone through LinkedIn, I've made the connections, and I'm down to the point where I'm actually discussing salary. Can I expect that salary to be fixed on certain points that is predetermined, or am I going to have to negotiate? And if I have to negotiate, who's going to help me do that?
It's a very good question, and like most answers in international schools, it depends. But the first time is likely. I think most of the great schools these days really have a pay scale, and if they talk to you specifically about pay scale in terms of you coming in at a level 1, and in 2 years' time we'll consider you for a level 3 or some such conversation. I think that's what you'll find from the best schools that we notice. In introduction, first year, teachers are pretty much the room for negotiation is limited because the schools have got a budget to work to. However, it should always be remembered that the first time that you're talking to a school is the best time for negotiation. So there's always the opportunity to say, am I able to get more in terms of cash? Or if you're not going to move in on cash, can I get it on something along the lines of benefits? So 2 flights home a year rather than 1 flight home a year, or something along those lines. You just need to find out what's important for you and what you're prepared to take versus what the school's prepared to offer.
I think in terms of salary, it's important to always remember that for teachers to know their value. It's a challenging job. We all know that. We've all worked in positions, both in teaching and Ollie and I ourselves outside of teaching, where we haven't felt valued. And I think it's quite easy for teachers to just accept whatever's on offer. But I think that they need to think deeply about knowing their value, understanding their value. And if the salary does not meet your expectation, don't take the position. There's no harm in actually turning down a role if it doesn't meet your expectations. I think it's good. It is a good idea though to be well informed. Obviously coming to Bali, we made inquiries and we found out about the salary, and of course it is lower here than we were getting in on the island of Java within Indonesia itself, and I'm sure in Jakarta as well. But we were aware of that and we knew that. But it wasn't a deal breaker for us. So, teachers need to figure out what their deal breakers are. And if salary is a deal breaker, then perhaps they should be looking in different areas, like the Middle East or like China, where they can have an opportunity to earn more.
Does the staff room provide that facility, provide that guidance and support for teachers in this situation?
Absolutely. We do one-on-one coaching for teachers, and so we help them go through the process of being able to, how do you correctly ask for the sort of thing that you're looking for as part of the contract. Now, the school may just turn around and go, no, this is it. There's no room for movement. And in that case, we go to what Shireen says. It's really about knowing your value and what you're prepared to accept. But in other cases, if you've done a really good job of selling yourself in and the school's really keen to have you, then they should be able to work out some form of way to keep you happy to get you in. And I think that's where, in terms of post-pandemic world, we're going to see the teachers having a little bit more power to allow them to be able to negotiate a bit more on contracts, because it's going to be, in some places difficult to convince people to come and travel to certain places.